Hello, everybody. Just want to let you catch you up on what happened at the service. John and I went to the service. Try to make it a short video, if I can. John, my mother, my niece, and I drove up to the funeral home. My brother was, I guess, behind us somewhere, with my nephew in his car. We all arrived at the same time. My mother and my niece were waiting for my brother to get out of his car. So I said to John, let's walk in and go up to the coffin so I can see my grandmother. Let me tell you something. If you know somebody now and they look like they're healthy and they look the exact same way over your entire life, let me tell you, that cancer changed her so drastically. It took a toll, really took a toll on her. Where I walked up to that coffin, and to me, it did not look like my grandmother laying there. I'm sorry, but it did not look like my grandmother laying there. Not that the grandmother that I remember all these years. That's how bad the cancer took a toll. But I told John, let's walk up to the coffin. So, as we walked into the room, we walked around the corner, and it's pretty sad when you walk around the corner and everybody's eyes turn on you. And John and I just literally stopped. And I said, let's go. I said we can walk through here, no problem. So we walk. I literally walked straight past all my first cousins, all my uncles, all my aunts. Didn't say one word to anybody. I set a goal out where I got to that funeral home. I was not going to speak to nobody except the person that was laying in the coffin. But the fact is, if you cannot reach out, I'm losing it. Reach out to me in over 25 years because of who I am and who I am, truthfully am to myself, then I have no qualms about not talking to you right now. So we walked past everybody, walked up to the coffin, bent down in front on the pew thing, it was in front of the coffin. So they kneeled down for 5 minutes. Then John and I started to get up. I said, let's go find a seat somewhere. So we walked right past everybody that we walked past already. And in that room that they were all standing and all staring at us, there was a nice, beautiful couch that I went and me and John sat down at. As soon as we sat down, the uncle that was at the hospital, my Uncle Alan, rounded the bend with a smile on his face. He says, oh, I didn't know if you knew about this because this is going to be last minute. You people knew she was dying 2 months ago. You people couldn't tell me 2 months ago where she was 5 minutes from my home. And she was walking up into the last few days of her life. We're actually going to taking her out to get her something to eat. Spend some time with her before she passed away. You couldn't tell me anything. So don't tell me that this was last minute funeral service planning because you all knew that she was dying 2 months ago. And then something struck a chord with John during that conversation with my Uncle Alan, so John intercepted that conversation, the rest of the conversation. And I went to set back down again. Then the uncle who, in 2003, came over with another uncle, my Uncle Alan, and my Uncle Jack and Uncle Frank, who at 2003 cornered me on the steps, which I actually took a picture of me on the steps before we left the place, because I knew where it happened. In 2003, told me blatantly to leave, keeping the family oriented, leave you rooster sucking bleep. So just change a few of the words, you'll know that I was told at my grandfather's service, which made me leave. Because they shouted it out throughout the entire funeral home. That's how loud their voices went. But that uncle started to come over towards me, and my brother walked into the room, and and my brother like met eye to eye to him for some reason. So my brother understood to him for like maybe 5 seconds. Then I overheard him talking to my brother. He says, "Well, I want to go over and say hi to your brother." So of course I'm talking like this. You know how you talk through your teeth? And I'm talking like that to John. I says, "Oh God, here we go. Here we go. I can't wait to see what's going to come." I say, "Here we go." So he he put out his hand, and we shook hands, and asked me how I was doing. I think to myself, 25 years, you could have found out how I was doing in 25 years. So I put a big smile on my face. I said, "Oh, John, I are just doing fantastic, thanks." Then he said something which struck a chord with John again, and John intercepted the rest of the conversation. So I basically said all but maybe 8 to 10 words maximum at the entire funeral home to any of the people of my relatives. Then John and I was still sitting there on the sofa. John noticed a video in the corner of the room, one of the rooms. He said, "Let's go check out that video." He said, "Let's see what's going on over there." So as we walked over towards the video, I noticed the book where people were signing, and I forgot to sign it. I said, "I want to sign the book." So I'm waiting in line to sign the book. My uncle was sitting not too far, my Uncle Alan, who's at the hospital. I asked him, I said, what's on the video? And he said, it's a video of her life and everybody that was in her life. He said, we made sure everybody's in that video. He said, go make sure you can check it out. I said, okay. I said, I'll do that as soon as we sign the book. He says, well, I'm going to get yelled at because I signed it, his name, and he put your favorite son. So as I turned to go, he says, why don't you claim the favorite grandchild spot? So, I mean, if someone's going to dare me to do something, I'm willing to do it. So I signed my name, and in parentheses I put your favorite grandson. Got the cards from the book, from my Bible at home. John and I walked over to the video. As we started to walk over to the video, I was stopped by a cousin of mine, Mark, who is my grandmother's nephew, asking me how I knew his aunt. I told him I was the first grandson. I said I'm her first grandchild. And then he told me how he was related to her, which I already knew because I knew who Mark was. And Mark was always, and has been, a little slow and challenged. So, anytime I saw Mark, I had no problems with Mark. And Mark had no problems with me. He talked with John and I. So, walked over to see the video. We watched the tail end of the video, and we started the video all over again. Of course, you see my cousins, my first cousins, my second cousins, and how they all changed throughout the entire their lives in this video. When it came to me, you saw me one time when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. That's the only picture they had of me in the entire video. My brother is the same age as me in the video as well. That's the only picture they had of him. Watching the video, you also saw a picture of my niece one time. My nephew 0 times. And my father, who is my grandmother's son, 1 time. That was it. 2 other cousins are also outcasts. They were only in their video twice. My cousins Joey and Cody were in the video twice. Why we're outcasts? My reasons is apparently because I'm gay, and they never liked that for like all my life. They've never talked to me because of that. So John and I watched that entire video for like the rest of the time we were there. I did see pictures of my Aunt May and my grandmother's sister Aunt May, and my grandmother's mother and my grandfather, which made me start to think about them because they loved me for me. Oh, I didn't want to do this. And had no problems with it, me. or what I was. They just wanted me there because of who I was. I was theirs. Unconditionally. So, it was 7 o'clock. We arrived at 6. At 7 o'clock, we started to get ready to leave. I said, let's go back up to the coffin again. Say our final goodbyes. Walked over to the coffin, and of course, all eyes started again towards us. So I figured as long as the eyes are turned on me, let's do something where they're going to see what's going on. Make sure that they're going to look at me. Let's make them sure they really get a good look at me. So while John and I are kneeling down, I reached out and grabbed her arm, which didn't bother me one bit because I actually kissed my other grandmother's forehead before the coffin closed. My mother's mother. I would have done that too, but I got this one's, but they probably would have freaked them all out, but which I should have done. But I reached over and grabbed her arm, said a couple things in my head to her as I'm looking at her. Then I kissed my hand, and I put my hand on. I laid my hand on top of her hand, and I rubbed her hand, and we started to leave. As we're leaving, a preacher's coming in to do the service at 8 o'clock. And John's like, is that our preacher from our church that we go to? I said, that couldn't possibly be because our church is like 40 to 50 miles from where we're at now. So I said, I'm curious, so let's go find out. So he walked over, and the preacher looks, after he gets done talking to whoever he was talking to, turns to John and I and says, I was coming to find you guys. He said, I knew you two looked familiar. I said, so you are the preacher from the church we go to in Beaver? He said, yeah. He said, I'm Margaret's cousin. He said, how are you related to the family? I said, Betty is my grandmother. I said, I was her first grandchild that was born to her. He says, well, I'm related to your aunt then because I'm your aunt's cousin. So apparently I'm related to the preacher that we see every Saturday night in church. So that was kind of small world, isn't it? Anyways, we get ready to leave the service. As we're leaving, John and my niece Dakota are already halfway towards the car. My mother and I are coming out of the funeral home, and you can't write this. I tell you, you can't write this if you wanted to. My mother and I are coming out around the corner of the funeral home to go to the car. And as we're coming out around the corner, my mother turns to me and says, my God, do we look a hell of a lot better than those people. I mean, I literally lost it. When she said we look a hell of a lot better than those people in there, which was true. Because, I mean, they're toxic. I mean, toxic people are going to look the worst. They're going to have nothing but cause drama in other people's lives, where they're constantly miserable, and they're going to look pretty, sorry to say it, but look pretty shitty. And, I lost it when she said it, so my mother and my niece and I and John drove to Eaton Park in Monaca, where my brother and my nephew joined us, and we all had dinner together. My Uncle Mike, who's actually in the hospital, who's also another outcast from the family, calls my brother up, finds him out, my mother's there, asks to talk to my mother for a couple minutes. Come to find out that not only do I have one strike against me for being gay, but he tells my mother that he had to convince the uncle who came over to shake hands with me at the service that night, to actually put my brother and I and his kids in the obituary because they were taking out whatever my father's done to them over the years on us. And my uncle told him that you can't put what their father has done onto the kids because the kids had nothing to do with it. Basically, I have no idea what's going on and whatever had happened to them. So I guess if John and I go visit my uncle tonight to see how he actually is doing, I might find out some more information. But apparently, I was not even going to make the obituary because of my father. So I have 2 strikes against me besides being gay. So it's 2 strikes for no reason. Go figure. So that's how our night went. Set a goal. Went in there not to talk to anybody. I accomplished it. They came to talk to me. like I said, if you don't want to know what's going on in my life for the last 25 years, don't come asking me now because I'm not going to talk to you about it. You want to find out? I'm not going to go directly to you and say, oh, hi, this is what's going on in our lives for the last 25 years. What's going on in your life? You want to find out what's going on with me? Come over to me. I'm not coming to you. So I literally walked in. John and I walked in. Walked right past everybody. Saw my grandmother. Sat down. They came, like I said, two uncles came over to me. I didn't go to nobody. So I accomplished my goal. I didn't talk to nobody. They came to me. Two of them, anyways. The rest of them kept their distance from me, which didn't matter to me one second. But that's how our night went. And that's my story of how my grandmother's viewing went. So, thanks for listening, and take care.